Well, who would have expected this, hey? I've been going out my mind doing nothing round here, messing with this rubbish black powder, and now I get the chance to send some of those damn rackies straight to the void. Praise Grungy! Admit it's all a bit odd. Racky attacking on the surface like this, attacking a place like this. They normally prefer to scurry in the ground like the cravens they are. Makes it easier for them to hide from the humans. Makes it easier for the humans to pretend they don't exist. Pah! All Dowie know the truth. And the humans, well, they mostly don't seem to care, or they simply say, oh, it's not that bad. Well, look at this, eh? Still, Astrid is singing tonight. I feel honoured to be able to enact vengeance. Just like the bloody gobbos, the Raki. Well, they've taken a lot from us. So tonight, I'll take from them. Ha ha! For the High King! For the ancestor gods! This is Red Moon role-playing. The sound of battle is all around you, Kruger. But you are able to make it back to the walls. The picket line has not fallen. Not yet. You even think it looks like they're starting to push back some of the foes that have breached the gate. But there's no time for that, not for you. You think to yourself, the best way to use your intel right now is to get to the tower, to the cannon. You need to tell the people there where that bloody trebuchet is. You still can see it, again, firing, bringing down these green boulders that are causing havoc in the back lines of the camp. It's only a matter of time, you think, before it actually strikes the wall. What do you do?
Well, together with the other men, we are making our way directly towards the tower then to relay this information. We have to tell them the coordinates that they need to attack so that we can take that thing out before it takes the cannon out, because then what are we going to do?
Exactly. Please make an athletics check.
That is a 42 under 47.
Then you duck and dive through the picket line up to the walls and begin making your way through. After all, that's the quickest way to get to that tower. The others start to fall behind a little. That's fine. Your mission now is to simply get your information done and get to somewhere where maybe you can start laying down some suppressive fire. There is a moment where you are concerned. You see some strange things flying through the air, strange purple little orbs. You don't have time to think what they are. All you know is you need to get past them. And you do, hearing behind you the screams of soldiers as you look and see that these little orbs erupt in pink clouds of something that causes the men to scream and claw at their eyes. But you avoid this, and you make your way to the tower. You look beneath you, you can see battle directly beneath you. Is that Gerner? Is that Heinrich? Maybe, but no time to help them now. You have your own mission. You get to the top of the tower. There's a little emergency ladder that leads up to it, and you find yourself at the top of the tower. There is the cannon. Astrid, you think it's called. It is an impressive thing, constantly firing. And there is a few people helping the dwarf. You remember him from before. As you come up, it's quite loud up here, but you see this dwarf just look at you. Yeah, can we help you?
We've located the enemy trebuchet, the one that's firing those big green balls of fire.
Yeah? You have? I knew you'd be useful for something, you crazy boy. All right, where is it?
And I'll relay the coordinates that we have then.
The dwarf gives you an odd-looking thumbs up, and then just directs that cannon suddenly. He yells out, that's where I thought, but I was slightly off. Thanks for the coordinates. At least you're better at this than you are at accidentally blowing us all to Kingdom Come.
Yes. Good. Now take that thing out.
He does so. There is a loud boom as you see this cannon fire before you. It is quite loud, Kruger. You have to cover your ears. But you look and you see direct hit. Somewhere in the dark, you're pretty sure where that thing was, you see an explosion. And then there are no more green fireballs.
I look to the other men who came with me. We did it. They didn't die in vain.
You hear the dwarf and them all raise their hands and begin cheering. The dwarf himself coming and clapping you on the back. Ha-ha! That will show those Raki bastards! For the holds! For the holds, you damn bastard scum! Ha-ha-ha! You then look down and you see something very unusual. For a moment you suddenly think you see a giant black hole just open at the gatehouse beneath you, and then suddenly, loads of foes are just gone. Just gone. They all just suddenly fall into the ground and then are churned and then gone. And you hear soldiers cheering and you see movement beneath you. How are you feeling, Kruger?
Well, still very worried about our situation. There's so many of them. And the weapons that they're wielding, I haven't seen anything like that. That fire that almost took me out. That took some of my men out. But it's good. We have some progress at the very least. We'll just have to keep this up now. We'll just have to keep firing.
Heinrich Schilf. The battle, you feel, has taken a turn for the better. You're not quite sure what's happened. You swear you suddenly were about to move to the main gate, and there were at least 30 or 40 of these screaming armoured foes, and then suddenly they all just fell into a dark void. You look. You see Gurner in the battle. He's hard to miss. For a moment you see a strange shadowy force just billowing around him as he stands mounted on this dark horse. And then you turn and they're all gone. Well, not quite. You hear the sounds as they are swallowed by the earth and crunched and then they're gone. Emmeline next to you looks at you for a moment, suspicion on her face, and you hear Bertha just mutter, "We must use all the weapons Sigmar gives us, even if... by gods." What do you think, Heinrich? On one hand, you think Gurner's just done something very, very good. But on the other hand, he just killed 40 of these beings with just himself? You've never seen magic this effective.
Well, it is Sigmar himself who gives these mages permissions to live, and I'm not going to second-guess the Emperor's judgment, even if it does give me pause. If Gurner can do this to rat men, God knows what he can do to me if it were to come to the occasion that I would have to strike him down.
Still, there's an opening. There's an opening. You can feel soldiers around you beginning to move forwards. The gatehouse is clear. You think you can tell what the commander's trying to do. You can see, somewhere in the distance, people starting to bring forward planks. They're going to try and surge forward, make an opening, and maybe try and barricade up the gate. It's not a perfect barricade, but at least it will be better than nothing. Are you going to join forward in the charge?
As opposed to do manual labor with the planks? No, so long as there are rat men to kill, I will be hard at work.
Indeed, and forwards you move. And then there is a moment you pause. You're at the main gate. You can practically now see the battlefield itself. There are still lots of shadows in the dark moving, but there is this gap, there is this lull. And then you hear something. The ground shaking again. Something going boom, 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 boom. You see, in the distance, quite a few of these creatures seem to have started to flee, but something now is coming forwards. It is much larger than these other rat men, at least 6 or 7 foot tall. His entire upper body is a slab of muscle, although its lower body seems a little less gigantic. Still, it is a large creature, bounding forwards. It has a strange metal helmet on its head, covering most of its actual face. One hand, you think you can see, has the gigantic metal talons upon it, and from it are these strange claws that seem to attach to the back of this creature. And then on the right hand, a large green glowing jagged piece of rock is attached to... There isn't even a hand there. This thing is charging towards you.
I think there's a phrase that comes from the south, be careful what you wish for. I definitely want glory. I would prefer it if glory were smaller and less dangerous looking, but those are inside thoughts, because I'm going to make my name on being the brave one. Foolhardy at times, but never flinching in the face of danger.
Kruger, you look about down. You see Heinrich moving forwards with his cohorts. You see this creature bounding towards him. Are you going to try and find a spot where you can maybe fire down upon this creature? You have the range. It's just a case of getting into position. You might not be able to do too much, but maybe you can at least help your friend.
Yes, well, I figure if I can lay down fire upon it, perhaps I can distract it to give Heinrich a better opportunity to deal some real damage. And if the other men are still with me, well, together we will attempt to just irritate the hell out of that thing.
Gurner Stark, you see an opening. You see the men coming forwards. You do notice a lot of them, though, stop and pause as they see this thing coming. You can feel their fear. You don't blame them. But Heinrich is charging forwards. Are you going to support him? There's plenty of room for your horse to ride into battle with him, although of course it will be quite dangerous, and you already feel a little drained from that last spell. You don't think you'll be able to do one as big as that anytime soon?
No, there's not time. And even if there were, that thing is so huge. If I don't, I'm not sure even the pit would hold it. I am going to have to try and do my best with my bolts. Maybe I can find a good spot to get through that armor.
Indeed. And finally, Siegfrieda, you are busy, very busy, but for a moment you do step out of the tent to make sure a new patient is coming in. You look. It does seem as if the sky is finally clear, and it does seem as if the soldiers are moving forwards. But you see something ahead. Something is charging forwards, and you see Heinrich, and there's that Gurner on some sort of steed. What do? Do you rush to help them? Or do you think you are better here? Better where your skills can save lives?
I will save people. I will save more people here than I will out there. And if my friends are injured, they will be brought to me. If I rush out there, I will only get in the way.
Indeed. And you return to your work. And so, battle begins. Could everyone give me their initiative values?
53.
39.
40.
Very well then. Situation is cleared to the three of you. This beast is charging forwards. It is currently charging straight to Heinrich, and it will, in its turn, reach him and attack. But as it passes underneath, it is your turn, Kruger. What do you do?
Well, I'm in position to fire my crossbow, and together with the other men, I'll try to see if we can fire a simultaneous volley at this being trying to hit any kind of unprotected area or open orifices of various kinds, eyes, mouth, that kind of thing.
You certainly will try, although you can already see the creature is very heavily armoured. But let's make your attack roll. It is a large creature. You're not quite at short range just yet, but you're at normal range. But you will get a +20 to this roll, for this is a large creature, and large creatures are easier to hit. Especially from ranged.
That is a 22 under 70, so that's 5 degrees of success.
You aim, you fire. Now, admittedly, your crossbow bolt doesn't seem to do much, but you were trying to aim for a little weak spot, maybe a little area by the neck, and you do hit, and you do see the wound seems to be bleeding quite heavily. In the long scheme of things, that might not be much, but you think that it's going to be struggling with that little bolt you fired for the rest of the fight, which will be useful. You also command the others to make their shots, and they are able to do some damage. But your heart sinks a little. You have a feeling this thing doesn't care too much about multiple arrows. Not at all.
No. We just have to hope that it somehow distracts us. That's the only thing we can hope for.
Gurner Stark, it is your turn. You see from above as this creature is charging forwards. Some people are helping you. There is a small group of archers and some with a crossbow bolt firing on the creature, but it just keeps coming. This thing doesn't care much, even though it is now being filled with arrows. What do you do? With your horse, you are able to move faster than most people here. It gives you more mobility than if you were on foot.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm trying to keep my cool. Don't do anything hasty. I need to be methodical. My hand shakes a little bit as I start directing the staff. Alright. No haste. Haste makes waste. That's what Grandpa told me. And I think of him and the knights of the blazing sun that he rode with. But this is not the sun, this is the shadow. And I start channeling Ulgu. So maybe I'll try and let loose a bolt on the next turn.
Excellent. You begin channeling up and getting ready. Heinrich, it is your turn. This creature is bounding towards you. It does slow for a second or two as you do see someone from above firing crossbow bolts and arrows into it, but then it just keeps coming towards you. Clearly wants to fight you. What do you do? It is your turn.
Well, it wants to fight me, and I can say the feeling is intensely mutual. But before I get to that fight, there's only one person I know on that rampart who could make a shot like that and send a crossbow bolt 100 yards flying into this putrid artery. So, with one hand obviously holding the sword, the other I will flash one of the known signals that Kruger showed me, the equivalent of the thumbs up, before then reaching to the freshly loaded pistol. I don't imagine this large rat creature speaks, so there's no need to taunt it. And even if that were the case, I can't imagine anything more offensive than the sting of a bullet and the stink of gunpowder.
Yes, please make your attack. Are you firing with both pistols?
Yes, I think that is the right choice.
Yes. Give yourself a plus 20 due to the size, and also, as you haven't moved, it was only maybe, let's say, 8 or 9 yards away. So, plus 40.
Oh, excellent. That is 14 under... Oh, we have plus 40. I'm at a 100. So, no, I couldn't miss without that. That's 9 levels of success.
Very well, then. Let's roll damage the first hit.
So then the first one would be the flat 8 plus 9 success levels is 17.
Second attack, please.
8 damage again, only 6 success levels, so that would be a 14.
You aim, you fire. Your pistols go off. Black powder filling the air. Both bullets hit. The creature does stumble for a moment. It does stumble. You're pretty sure you can see dark wounds beginning to form on its person. You have definitely hurt it. And yet it still comes. Now, your turn is not yet over. The question is, do you stand your ground? Or do you try and move? You still have some movement.
I'm gonna save him the trouble. I am charging directly at him. I'm not gonna waste time reloading pistols. Sword in hand, I am going to close the distance first.
Very well. Then you do so. And please keep in mind you now have 1 advantage due to your successful attack, which you may very well need. You charge towards the creature. It doesn't seem confused or stunned by what you do. It doesn't really seem to care. It simply is happy that you engage it. It raises its fists into the air, the great one that's a glowing green stone in the clawed hand, and tries to bring them down upon you. Although you do notice that one of the arms is moving slightly slower than the other, the one with the bolt in it. Maybe Kruger successfully did an injury far deeper than he suspected. So this will be an opposed roll, as you are melee. I will say this, dodging has no penalty, but parrying has a minus 20 to it. Which, of course, you do have advantage, so that will become a minus 10. But yes, because this is a large creature, and they are hard to parry.
No, and Heinrich has never been a strong fighter, so the idea of matching blades with something that is taller than him, not hard to do, but also like 3 times as thick in the torso as he is, that is not a thought that has crossed my mind. So I will use dodge to dodge.
Please do so.
Oh my god. So that's a 63 above a 62. I'm going to have to use a point of fortune.
You are, I'm afraid.
That's better, though. That's a 2.
The creature brings down its claw upon you. Tell us how you dodge this. It is quite miraculous. You immediately feel this horrifying sensation of how large this thing is, and how if it did strike your weapon, it will probably just throw you back. But somehow, you are able to parry and dodge.
I think that I don't know that these creatures are thinking or that it's been trained in any kind of combat, but I imagine something animalistic about it that expects something smaller than it will run away. I think the last thing it's going to imagine is that Heinrich would dodge towards it, such that the arc of the blade coming down is going to actually land behind him. As I roll forward, probably past like the left side, underneath where the claw is, just taking advantage of the fact that it's large, it's got a big reach, it can't really get in close to itself, so I'm going to be there for the time being.
And so the next round begins. Kruger, you are above your foe, but he is now in melee with Heinrich. Heinrich just ran straight forwards. You have no idea what he's thinking, but you have to admit, he's still alive. He is dodging this thing's attacks. What do you do?
Yes, in this situation, am I able to fire upon it without accidentally hitting Heinrich? I mean, it is very large.
You certainly can. You've got quite a few bonuses here, Kruger, which will helpful and counteract the minuses. Although, you of course need to reload your weapon first.
Yes, so then that is what I do. I reload and get myself ready to attack as soon as a moment appears.
Wonderful. Please roll your reroll check, which is your ballistic skill. You only need to get 1 success level.
That is a 61 over 50, so I'll need to use a point of fortune. 20.
In that case, once again, fortune is on your side as you are able to reload your crossbow. Gurner, your turn. You see Heinrich rushing forward. You notice his 2 cohorts are trying their best to follow suit, but they're pausing a little, and indeed a lot of soldiers are trying to find the courage to charge this thing, but not quite finding it. But it's your turn. You've channeled. What do you do?
I feel my heart just skip a beat. Heinrich, you crazy fuck. And then I let my mind focus again. I'm holding the Olgo, and I'm going to try and let loose a bolt. Let's see if it works. Nope. I'm going to use a fortune point. No, unfortunately, that doesn't go through. So either it goes wide or I'm not able to materialize my bolt.
Well, at least it was not a critical fail. Yes, your bolt just forms in your hands, but then you just feel this great fatigue come over you. You're tired, Gurner. Very tired. The shadows just fall from your hands, and you just find yourself struggling for a moment to keep yourself up on your horse. It passes. It does pass. But you've never used this much Ulgo at once before. It seems it's not quite as easy as you were thinking.
Focus. Come back. I can do this.
Heinrich, it is your turn. You are now in melee with this creature. You have avoided its blows. But how long can you keep this up? I'm afraid I'm going to need to make you... You're going to need to roll a quick willpower check here. But keep in mind, you have 2 advantage at this point.
Well, now it seems like my luck has started to run dry. That is 80 over 40, so 4 failure levels.
You are about to be overcome with fear, Heinrich, as you take in your situation, having charged this creature single-handedly. But if you want, you can spend a point of resolve to overcome this fear.
I will, and resolve is absolutely the correct word. I've come this far. I would like to think that I have if not learned to master my fear, then learned to shove it away somewhere. So, resolute, I will cast aside the vivid mental imagery of all the things that could happen, of how not even Siegfrieda will be able to put my innards back in the correct order if this thing lands a hit, but I'm not going to let that bother me.
Indeed. And so, it is your turn. What do? You are now in melee, so sadly, well, to be fair, you could try and shoot with pistols, but you would have to reload them.
I'm not going to take the chance to reload, and I have a different plan in mind. You mentioned that there was the greenish tube happening behind it, and now I believe that tube is in sword range.
It certainly is. If you'd like to make a called shot, that is of course at a -10.
4 levels of success, yes. 41 under 88.
4 levels of success, very good. Of course, it is an opposed roll. Heinrich, you see your moment. You are not afraid. You dive forwards, rapier in hand, ready to strike. And then the creature just turns with surprising speed. And with that hand, that strange green stone hand, it just knocks your weapon away. You stumble back. You lose all your advantage, and the creature gains advantage. As the creature then bears down its full weight upon you. It raises both its hands in the air, and suddenly just comes forward, almost trying to put both its claw and its giant stone into one blow, and it just then stumbles forward. It just stumbles forward, and you just duck. You duck, and you're fine. That was extremely close, Heinrich, but once again, you're absolutely fine. And the creature loses its advantage.
There are benefits to being Sigmar's chosen.
There are indeed. Kruger, your turn again. Your friend is surviving. This is incredible. You could even notice some of the soldiers are finally starting to get ready to charge forward due to this bravery. But how long can he last? Your turn. You've reloaded.
Well, then I will fire. Again, trying to hit some kind of weak spot, given how, well, heavily armored this thing is.
Make your roll. Keep in mind your bonuses.
Plus 50. Alright, well then that's 71 under 100.
What is your damage as you hit and get another advantage?
That would then be 9 plus 3, so 12.
Another hit, Kruger. Sadly, not nearly as effective as the last one. You can see it does just go into its back. But every arrow counts. Every arrow counts. And again, your friends all fire as well and do a bit more damage as this thing's back begins to fill with arrows.
Keep it up, men, and I immediately start to prepare to reload.
Gerner, your turn. Your Heinrich is dancing around this creature. It is fascinating. Maybe he has an advantage on speed over size. But still, things could change any moment now. You do feel the rest of the soldiers are finally starting to gain the courage to move forwards. But what do? Are you going to try another spell? Or are you going to try and maybe just hit this thing? Maybe just get its attention off him? What are you feeling?
Seeing Heinrich in there fighting for his life, I'm just thinking to myself, it's no longer the time. I don't have time to try and prepare something that I'm barely finding focus to maintain. This is going to have to go in with my reflexes in the ring. All that time spent fighting will have to be for something. And so I do get off my steed, and I charge in myself, flicking the spear staff so that the blade once again comes out, and I'm going to try and attack this monstrosity.
And so you charge forward, which gains yourself +1 advantage as you charge into battle. And since the creature is large, that is a +20 to the roll. However, of course, it is opposed.
Well, up goes my spear staff. Let's try and find a clink in that armor. That's not a perfect roll, so we're going to use one more fortune point here.
Okay.
Oh. Well, that's a 21 then, under 80. That's 6 levels of success.
You move forwards, Gerner, for a moment, concerned. Your staff is, after all, quite an effective weapon, but it is not a blunt weapon by any means. And yet, fate smiles as you duck under one of its swings and stab. Please inflict your damage.
7 plus 6, 13 then, with the success levels plus the damage.
You dive in and you stab the creature with your spear, hitting it in its side. It does roar in some form of anger or emotion, but again, it is so large. This thing is now covered in wounds, bullet wounds, arrow wounds, your spear, and yet still is moving. Except, of course, that right arm. It really does seem to have hindered the creature. What an excellent hit that was from Kruger. Heinrich, your turn. What do? The creature is now outnumbered. You've lost all your advantage, but you do gain the +20 from its size, and now a +10 from outnumbering, so a +30 already.
Well, now that I have a sense for its speed, that's unfortunate. I was hoping this would be a little easier. But I am, for one, relieved to not have been crushed under several, what I assume are tons of rat muscle, and also the appearance of my compatriots. That makes things easier. So I will haul myself back up to my feet. It seems a bit silly, seeing Heinrich in a dueling pose in front of this monster, but that's what I know.
Please make your attack roll. Would you like to try once again to make the called shot on it, or just go and stab it?
I'm going to try the called shot again, not for the back of it, though. I need to slow this thing down. I don't know if rats have, like, an Achilles tendon or something like that, but I figure if I can do enough damage to a leg, that might then give me the edge I need.
It certainly seems less balanced on its legs than it should be. It's almost as if the top of this creature is unnaturally large compared to its then lower body. So once again, at a -10, but then keeping in mind all the bonuses, make your attack roll, but it will be opposed.
Oh, that's a critical fail, so I'm going to use my second to last point of fortune. I'll only have one left after this.
A good time to use it.
This is a 30, so that's a critical on the rapier.
Well, Heinrich, that is a critical hit on the leg as you dart underneath this creature. And you're right. Your instincts were right. It is slower down here. It is not easy for it to move. I roll a 66. 66 is another torn muscle. 2 more wounds. Now, the wound thing might not seem great. There's only 2. However, you succeeded exactly on what you were trying to do, which was slowing it down quite badly. As you hack half its leg off, it doesn't come off fully, but it does start to buckle. The creature starts losing its balance. It starts flailing around. Now, sadly, of course, you do have movement, but to get out of melee, you'd have to make a test. But, actually, no, because you just got advantage. So if you want to disengage, you can, because you can spend the advantage to do it. That's how that works. Your choice. What do you do?
So I have Step Aside, which is the talent. So winning an opposed test allows me to disengage up to 2 yards away.
That, then, yes, that is exactly what happens. If you wish it, you can now dart away out of its range.
I think that's the right decision. I'm imagining that when the blade sinks, there is a scream like from the pit of the 9 hells that comes out of this thing's mouth, and it hasn't struck me as a particularly like dexterous combatant, so I'm imagining it's also followed up by just wild swinging of clawed limbs, and I don't want to be near that right now.
Then you dart away skillfully as the creature flails. Gurner, sadly you are still there. It is the creature's turn. Do you feel anything, Heinrich, when you suddenly dart away from the beast and realise Gurner has suddenly joined you? And now while you've got away from its flailings, he's about to take the full brunt of it.
I think I have the exact same reaction that Gurner had seeing me charge in, which is, oh, you big, brave idiot.
Gurner, you need to make an opposed roll as this creature brings its fists down upon you. Granted, it is now flailing wildly, and it has lost its balance. The thing is going down, but it seems to have just made it more angry.
Yeah. There's not much time. I just meet for a split second the gaze of Heinrich, and if there is any such thing as a split-second shrug, then that's what's flashing through my eyes. Yeah, look what I just did. And then the blows start raining down, and I have not much time to try and get out of the way. So what I automatically do, even despite this thing being so big and menacing, is just clicking in the blade and trying to defend against these blows.
Indeed. Make your roll.
Alright. It's -20, and then +20 because I have a defensive bonus. And no, +10 if I use the weapon. I think still it's gonna kind of even out for me. So I'm gonna use the weapon to parry, but that was not a good enough roll. I'm gonna try and use my last fortune point, and we'll see how badly it can go. That is 3 levels of success.
It is indeed. Tell us how you parry this blow as the green glowing hand tries to club you, but just can't quite do it.
I used one end of the staff to just quickly shove it into the ground, using that as the force again, and I can feel the whole weapon just vibrating with the force as the other end meets the enormous stone-clad fist of this creature, and I use it to try and regain my balance, but I stumble a bit backwards.
And so the battle continues. But there's a change, Kruger. You look and see, finally, people are screaming, "Charge! Charge! Bring it down!" And the soldiers are finally moving forwards. It seems insane, but it occurs to you that this has all been at most maybe 40 seconds, maybe a minute of time has actually passed. What do you do, Kruger? You think, finally, the rest of the army are coming forwards upon this creature. You think victory's at hand. What do you do?
Well, if I see that that's happening, I'll do my part and I'll fire again, hoping to help take it down.
Make your shot.
That is then a 45 under 110, so that's 6 degrees of success.
Lovely. How much damage?
15.
Wonderful. You fire again and again, this thing now becoming a pincushion as it begins to slowly, finally go down. You think? You're not sure. Gurner, you've been blown back, but you are now joined by others. Everyone is charging this creature. It's still flailing around, quite dangerous, but you think it's finally going down. Do you try and get in one more blow? Or maybe do you think that's enough and get back for a second or two?
As this happens, I'm not going to stop. I somehow feel that even despite that heavy parry, I have a momentum. This ends when we're all done. And I whirl around and I slice at it again with the sharp end that juts out of the spear staff.
Wonderful. Make your attack roll.
Alright, that's just 1 degree of success this time, but still.
You charge forward, trying to find an opening, but now there's people in the way, and the thing does just back you off again. It just backs you off again. But it's only a matter of time, you think to yourself, and you're fine. Maybe stunned for a second, but fine, as it does just roll a few more success levels than you.
If I take a little bit of its attention, it will leave a gap opening for someone else.
Indeed. Heinrich, you think the moment is at hand. Finally, the others are joining you. You even see Emmeline and Bertha charge in. Granted, Emmeline charging in slightly more than Bertha, although she does then again raise her staff, light coming from it. What do? You think the creature is finally nearly down. It maybe has one bit of fight left in it, but it won't last much longer.
No, and I want to make sure that with all these bodies around, that nobody ends up doing something silly like getting themselves killed right at the end. So if they can distract that's fantastic, but I'm going to try to scale this monster mountain and stab it through, not the arm spine as we've established, but the actual spine.
Then please move forward and make your attack.
I'm gonna have to use it, because that's an 80, which is not gonna do it. A 29 under, after the advantages, an 88. So 6 levels of success.
How much damage?
So that's 10 plus a strength bonus of 4, 14.
You dive forward. You mount yourself on its back. You drive down the rapier. It goes down. It goes down. And then there is one final flurry as you feel the creature, despite falling to the ground now, just suddenly twist and try and throw its weight on you one last time. Even though your rapier is deep in its back, you are of course able to withdraw your rapier. What do you do as you oppose the roll? Will you parry or dodge?
Dodge is still my correct action. I don't like the odds of rapier versus giant claw. A 77. That is a critical fail.
That is a critical fail, I'm afraid. You try and get out of the way, but it's impossible now. It's impossible, Heinrich. There's no way you can get out of the way now. You feel a bit of disappointment for a second. You think it was down, but somehow it still had the strength to do this one last attack on you. So the first hit sadly does hit. It hits you for 15 damage. Keeping in mind, you do have your toughness and your armor.
So the 9 total.
And now, as its claws rake across your body, and don't quite penetrate your armor, but definitely you can feel that, it raises that green fist. And that will hit you as well if you do not oppose it.
I feel like opposing it is the right move.
Now I'll tell you this, it only got 1 success level on its second hit, so you just need 1 success level to parry.
No, that's an 83.
And I'm afraid that rolls a 40. And this weapon has impale. You've suffered a critical hit, Heinrich. Now keep in mind, you could burn a fate point, and that critical hit goes away. Or you can take it.
Yeah, I'll use the fate point to spare myself death, I suppose.
Then tell us, Heinrich, as you feel that green fist come to you, how does fate smile upon you?
In my head, this creature is rearing up with both fists ready to come down, and it's just there's gore and screeching and fur, and I've been disarmed. I'm exhausted. The first blow has already ripped out the armor from my weapon hand. So for me, the fate intervening isn't anything Heinrich does. I think it's what Gerner does.
Suddenly, I'm just there. I see it, that big strike almost on its way to land on Heinrich, and my body just acts on its own, and I'm able to somehow wrestle in my staff in between him and that, and I catch it and I fling myself back down, just trying to hold this massive arm down with my staff as well. And there's just that moment I cry out, "Heinrich, finish it! Finish it! Now!"
And it's that moment of distraction and that slight jolt of adrenaline when you think you're about to die and you have one little opening. So passing the rapier into my offhand, I'll take advantage of Gerner having stretched it up and drive it up through the throat, the tip underneath the jaw, and just as far up through the muscly, bony mass as it'll go until this rat stops moving.
And it does. It quivers one last time, but now you are surrounded by soldiers, and they all begin stabbing it with their halberds. Emmeline comes in and delivers a blow onto its head with their hammer, and it's down. It's down. There is cheering around you. And you look around. How do you feel, Heinrich? How do you feel, Kruger? How do you feel, Gerner? You've won.
It's the immediate wave of exhaustion that's going to stay in Heinrich's mind for whatever adventures that follow, because the adrenaline of the fight suddenly departs, and the fight plays back through my mind of all the little bits of luck and all the small moves, all the ways that it could have gone wrong. And I go to push myself up from the ground, and that's when I realize how bad the wound on my sword arm is. And so despite my best efforts to show the stoic face or to be the big damn hero, I just collapse back onto the ground. And you can see the breastplate caked in mud and mess, just raising up and down with these deep, exhausted breaths.
And so you take a knee, Heinrich. It is a rather painful wound. At this point, Siegfrieda, You've been focused on wounded soldiers, you've been focused on screaming people, but you do notice a change outside. You hear cheering and you look and you see your friends. Your friends have won. But then you do notice Heinrich take a knee. Heinrich has been hurt. You notice a bunch of soldiers are now starting to move past Gerner and Heinrich, all trying to secure now that gate and move out a little. Are you going to... Do you feel the need to rush forward and help Heinrich? Or do you think... No, he knows where you are. He can come forward to you. What do you do, Siegfried?
If my patients are as stable as they're going to be, then of course I will rush forward to Heinrich.
And so Siegfried runs forwards. What about you, Gerner? You feel around you soldiers moving forwards. They're trying to make a final push. Push out the enemy. Maybe secure that gate. You could join them. But you also notice Heinrich has fallen. Not terribly, you don't think. Not terribly, but he does need medical aid soon. You think you can see, in the distance, Siegfried running towards the two of you. What do you do, Gerner?
I see her coming. For a minute, I just stand there, make sure that no one who decides to do this last charge just walks over him. But then as she gets nearer, I take a step back and I get back up on my steed and I nod towards the both of them. All right, we're winning. We're almost there. And then I follow the rest of the soldiers and I get ready to charge down any who's trying to flee or any last stragglers.
Then you head out, Gerner. Finally you, Kruger. You see your friends, Heinrich and Siegfried. They're just beneath you. You think Siegfried is running to help Heinrich. That's good. He looks hurt. You see Gerner charging out, having quickly mounted his shadowy steed, and you see several soldiers making their way out. What do you do? Are you going to run to your friends? Or are you going to look over the wall and keep firing at the enemy?
Well, I think we've done what we can for right now. At least I have. So I'll head over to my friends. I need to make sure that they're all right. What we faced here today was no ordinary foe. This could have ended very, very badly. It's a miracle that it hasn't. So yes, I will go to them.
Then you run to them. Siegfried, you arrive at Heinrich's side. He's hurt. You suddenly notice you're joined by Kruger. It's rather strange, all three of you suddenly together while loads of other soldiers are moving past you. But you have seconds of peace. Seconds of it. What do you say, Siegfried?
No fainting now, Heinrich. Come on, let's get you to the medical tent. Now isn't the time to drop your bravery, is it?
It's the miasma, I swear. Trying to avoid using the hurt arm, but at least making it up to my knees.
Come on, I'll support you.
You know, I think I felt that as well. Yes, here as well.
Well, there'll be a worse miasma if we don't get this arm treated soon.
And so the three of you have your conversation. Oblivious for the moment to anything else. Not so for you, Gerner Stark. You ride forwards. You send these things fleeing. And then the bell again. Dong. Dong. You see movement in the dark. More are coming. More. You look left, you look right. There are foes everywhere. How can this be? You surely killed so many. And yet there are hundreds more charging forwards. And then in the dark you see to the right shapes, lumbering shapes. 2, 3. You feel the soldiers around you who were cheering just seconds ago stop. You see several of them taking a back step. Gerner, so many more are coming. What do you do?
The odds. Are they impossible? How many do we have left on our side?
You don't know. There's no time. Could you roll a perception check?
That is actually a very good roll there. 3 degrees of success.
as your mind is trying to work out how many of you are left, how many more of them are left, trying to work out how to back away, because you need to back away, you need to get back behind the picket line, you see something very strange. Something to the south. A strange green light. Odd. Another catapult? But why is it coming from that direction? And the light comes closer and closer. And you have no idea what you're seeing. It doesn't make any sense. What is this thing coming from the south? And then your vision is blurred with green. As the world ends... Well, maybe not, Gurner. Could you make a ride check as suddenly a great force fills the entire area and a loud boom sound echoes for everyone very clearly to hear?
That's 1 degree of success.
You cling to your shadow steed for dear life. You are able to do so, as it, funnily enough, doesn't seem affected by this at all. That makes sense, it is ethereal. But you almost fall off your horse, as you just about manage to ride it back from this green explosion that fills the air with debris and rubble and thousands of shrieking screams. Kruger, Heinrich, and Siegfrieda, could you all roll me an athletics check, as the peace of your conversation is disrupted by the loudest sound you ever heard, and for a moment your vision's being blinded by a green flash.
33 under 47.
That's 43 under 52, so 1 degree of success.
I rolled a 100, so I'm going to spend a fortune. Well, that's not much better. That's a 98.
Siegfrieda, you are thrown to the ground, and for a moment you even roll away from Heinrich. Heinrich, you see this happening, and you just about grab her. And Kruger, you do as well, but due to this, all three of you just find yourselves thrown to the ground and thrown to the side, hitting the ground hard. It hurts. Everyone takes a wound. Could you then roll endurance rolls? All 4 of you, but you, Gunnar, will make the endurance roll to -10. You were closer after all.
4 degrees of success for me.
That is a failure. I used this final point of fortune. Alas, another failure.
Yeah, I fail. I will also use my final point of fortune. And, like Matthias, another failure.
With my minus, I still managed to get a 20 under 27.
Then, Heinrich, as shocking as this is, it does not end your world. And same for you, Gurner. But you, Siegfrieda, and Kruger feel something odd, something ringing in your ears, a deep nausea. You especially, Siegfrieda, having just been thrown to the ground. You hear Erica barking, worried somewhere, but you can't quite hear where it is. You both just suffered 1 corruption. And then there is an odd silence. And slowly, the world comes back. You shake your head. Heinrich, Kruger, Siegfrieda, you have no idea what has just happened. You have never experienced anything like that before in your life. But you're alive. And lots of other people are alive, it seems. The picket line is still standing. What do you do?
What about the rat men? What about the hordes that were about to fall in on us?
You try and right yourself on your horse, Gurner. You look to your right, and they're just gone. In the place where they were, or at least half this army was, you just can't see anything. But except maybe smoke, and dust, and debris. And the ground seems to have changed, and you look just a few feet away from you in that direction, and see some soldiers who were just a bit closer than you were. Their bodies are smouldering and blackened. But to the left, you think you hear some sort of confused cheering. In the dark to the left, you suddenly see things just retreating, fleeing. The bell has stopped. You see feel a bit of rumbling, and you think you see something far to the north, some sort of tunnel just coming down as things go through it. But they're gone. You have no idea what just happened, Gurner. But you think you've won?
I wheel the being around my shadow steed, and I just blink, getting my eyes used to the darkness again. All right, whatever is going on, the commander must be notified, and she'll make the decision on what to do next. I start heading back, trying to find her.
Kruger, what's going through your mind? You feel unwell, but never mind that. You're alive, aren't you? And you hear cheering. It's a bit of a confused cheer. A lot of people are just crying, and some are weeping, and some are in pain, but some people are starting to cheer, and you look to the gate, and you swore for a moment there was a wave of enemies. But now they're gone. But how? What just happened? What are you thinking?
I can't explain it. It doesn't make any sense. And I don't feel well. Not well at all. I'm alive, but something happened here. Something very, very wrong. I think I just slumped together.
Siegfrieda, you feel Erica licking your face. You're alive. You don't know what just happened. But you're alive, you think.
Push her away. Resist the urge to kick her. Come on, Heinrich, we need to fix your arm up. Heinrich? Where are you?
Yes, Doctor.
Heinrich, there's a ringing in your ears. You're alive, and you've won, but what in Sigmar's name just happened? You look, and again, you swore there were so many more foes coming, and now they're just gone. But what on earth did you do that? Did your side do that? What was that green explosion that seemed to fill everything for a second or two?
Is that a question I can answer with lore chaos?
Have a roll. -10, but give it a roll, let's see.
No, 65 over 29.
It could have been a chaos spell, but what a horrifying spell. How did it fill everything? It didn't feel like it was an explosion of gunpowder or an explosion even in an area. It felt like everything exploded. Clearly it hasn't, but that light seemed everywhere, and you can just see in the distance, even though it's hard to see in the dark. Is that like just smoke covering half the battlefield? Hard to tell in this dark, of course.
And if we're meant to find out, we will, but I'm not charging into any haunted keeps without my arm being put back the way it belongs, so I will follow Siegfrieda. I know better than to get in the way of the doctor's orders when she's in full doctor mode, so...
One thing crosses your mind, Gurner, as you ride back and you see your friends. You look behind you. Far, far in the distance. You think there's still something happening at that so-called brass keep. But that is to the east. You saw this thing. It came from the south. From the mountains themselves. At least you think so.
I wonder... What was that? Is that the same strange colour as the other things that they wielded, but it was clearly aimed at them? But by whom? And why? Did someone do this? Did someone step in? I need to find out what's down there. Who could have attacked from there? These are the things that I think as I ride past the macabre grave site of where I managed to manifest that pit. It's almost like a circle lined with upstretched clawed arms and weapons from these, those of them that had tried to climb up. But you can only see it because I know it's there. The whole area is littered with dead bodies and those that are still struggling to keep alive. I'll go back to the commander and report this. But I must find out more about what happened.
You must. And so you'll straggle back to the commander, and Siegfrieda you'll take Heinrich to the tent, and Kruger you'll just amble along confused. But at least it's over. And there is a tired cheer as the commander herself begins riding along. Long live the Empire! Long live the Emperor! And all the survivors cheer. The battle is over. Although how and why, none of you have any idea. But at least it's over. For now.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the legendary campaign The Enemy Within for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition, published by Cubicle 7. In this fourth part of the series, we are tackling The Horned Rat. Joining us as players in this series are none other than Aaron Hammonds from Queen's Court Games and our dear friend Matthew Dawkins. The music was made by Flowers for Body Snatchers, Wordclock, Metatron Omega, Aegir Solus, Apocryphus, Halgrath, and Northumbria, featuring a number of collaborations with other artists, and was used with permission from their label, Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Graham Barey, Doug Thomson, and Lily for their generous support. And we would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to our Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay bonus campaign, Rough Nights and Hard Days, as well as bonus campaigns for Cult of Divinity Lost and Call of Cthulhu there. On top of that, we also offer early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as the champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember that Skaven are definitely not real, and even if they were, our Emperor has already dealt with that threat.